my coming out was a bit of a multi-stage event, and I think a lot of people find that coming out is a multi-stage event anyway. Once you've told a group of people, when you discover a new group of people, you have to tell them all over again. I split up with my ex-wife, and she was one of the first people I told. It was a bit of a shock to the system for her, but that was understandable. You know, you've lived this life with this one person for a while. For her to suddenly find out this whole life-changing secret, it can have a knock-on effect to her as well. But we now get on quite well. I then had to deal with coming out to friends. And by this stage I'd been in the army for quite a few years, and I had no civilian friends really. I had a few wives who were friends, and I had a few family members who were friends, but a majority of my friends were all military. And so with the trust that we built there, I felt that was the time to come out to them. So I started telling bit by bit my close friends. Not a single one of them had a problem with it, which was the most shocking thing to me of the whole aspect of coming out. I was expecting tears and tantrums and violence and rejection. I can't name a single friend or person I knew who changed any aspect of the way they looked at me. I told my friends and was overwhelmed more so with the support that they were willing to offer. The amount of offers of single gay friends that they had started to become a bit overpowering, but it was fantastic in the support that I had. You'd expect in an environment where you live your life day to day in a violent environment, in an aggressive environment, and a very masculine environment, to have been completely different. But these people were my friends, so I wasn't surprised by their reaction deep down. I shouldn't have been surprised as I was. Yeah, so after I'd come out to friends, it became apparent it was the time that I was going to need to start telling family. I was a little bit fearful of how they take it, because of the way that I'd been brought up, because of the way I felt of their values and their standards. And I actually went, the first person in my family I told was my uncle. I've got a very close relationship with my uncle and my aunt. They've sort of been my surrogate parents since I've been living over here in the UK. And I knew they were quite liberal in their views. They both worked in the healthcare services for a long, long time. They've got various different backgrounds, and they've got various different family members and friends who are from various different walks of life. And so I went and spoke to my uncle, and I actually asked them what they thought my dad would say. And they told me that my dad would actually probably be a lot more accepting than I was expecting him to be. I didn't do it in a coward's way, but I had no other option bar to. My parents live in Australia still, and I'm here in the UK, so I had to tell them down the phone. Couldn't do it to them face to face. I phoned up my mum, who was actually quite supportive and more surprised at the fact she hadn't figured it out for herself. And then came up with a glorified phrase, "Oh great, we can go shopping now." No, we can't, Mum. Don't do the shopping bit. I told my dad, when I phoned up my dad and told my dad, I was spoiling for a fight. I was expecting my dad to argument and come up with some sort of comment. And so when I told my dad, his first reaction was, "Oh." So I jumped straight into the fight. I said, "What do you mean, oh?" He said, "Well, you know, I'm an ex-forces man when a man's world was a man's world." I said, "Hello, Dad, I'm still in the army today." "Yeah, I suppose so. You're always a bit artsy-fartsy at school." I said, "Dad, I like drama." I said, "All your heroes are actors." "Yeah, I suppose so. Just so long as you're happy then. How's the kids getting on?" "Yeah." No, that was it. You know, I was expecting something completely different, but I think that's testament to how things have changed, how easily accepted it was by all the people I've told. I was fearful of how one of my sisters would take it and how my older brother would take it. My older sister being a very religious girl, very Christian values, sent her children to Christian school, goes to Bible studies several times a week. She was the more accepting of the other three older siblings. She turned around and said, so long as Alastair's happy, I'm happy. My elder sister didn't care. My brother, who I was fearful of because he's a blokey Australian bloke, just turned around and went, just as long as you still drink beers and none of them shitty little cocktails in front of me, I don't care. So my family were really quite good and open about it. Telling the kids was unique in the fact when I told my eldest daughter, who was 12 at the time, her response was, oh, that's okay, I've got loads of friends who have got two mummies. My three younger children were quite young at the time, so they've pretty much grown up with it and they don't really care. They use, occasionally I've picked them up for the typical school playground, oh that's gay or don't be so gay type stuff. I don't allow that in the house. However, they're quite accepting of it and they're quite more than happy to meet any potential partners that I've had, or anybody I've been dating. When the time comes right, they're more than happy to meet them when I'm more than happy to introduce them. Then came the next stage of having to actually tell work itself, having to tell the army. I've already spoken about how the army was the illegalities of the army and homosexuality and its incompatibility in the early days. But by the time I came out, it was 2006, 2007. A lot had happened since the 2000 change, and I felt it was time. The time was right. I was actually at a function, a work function, and somebody had made a comment to me. I think they said something along the lines of "Go fuck yourself," and I turned around and went, "No thanks, I'd rather fuck you." We were all pissed. All of us were there, and I suddenly clocked onto what I'd said. Somebody came over to me and actually asked me, "Look, are you gay?" I felt the time was right. It was pointless hiding anymore. I'd been away from my wife. I'd been separated from my wife for quite some time, and I was living my life. And I decided to say yes. Yes, I am gay. Is there a problem with that? Very shortly after that, I suddenly thought to myself, was that such a wise idea? In a room full of burly soldiers, drunk, mid-afternoon, ready and spoiling for a fight. And I went and sat in the corner with a group of friends, and I suddenly got the fight or flight response. I thought to myself, it's either going to kick off or I'm just going to need to get out of here anyway. And two of the biggest, hardest, strongest members of my mess, my organisation, made a beeline towards me, and I thought, this is it, this is going to be the moment. I gripped my bar stool a bit tighter, I gripped my pint glass a bit tighter, and I was ready to start swinging. As they approached me, they were both actually smiling, and they both walked over to me and both shook my hand and said that I must have had the courage of a lion to have come out in the infantry at a corporal's mess do whilst everyone was pissed. And from there, that was it. I felt quite disappointed. I was expecting a song and a dance, I was expecting popularity, I was expecting people to come and ask me questions. That was it. It carried on as though nothing had been said and nothing had changed. Over the coming days and weeks, people started asking me questions, well, you were married, how do you feel, what do you do, what's your role, what sort of guys do you go for, why is it different? One gentleman, one of my colleagues actually came and started questioning me about how I felt about life, how it was affecting me being gay and open, because it turned out his brother had committed suicide because he was gay and couldn't cope with coming out. So he was trying to gain an understanding of how his brother had felt. And I found the support from work and from the army was immense for me. I felt no fear of coming out from work, colleagues and friends and people who might have had an issue. Nobody had an issue. The army then actually turned around and said to me, if you have any issues in regards to sexuality and homophobic bullying, come and see us directly. They specifically made their way out to help me. Everybody has a journey. And how you choose to carry that journey out and where you want that journey to end is entirely up to you. One of my old sergeants always used to say, only person who can tell you no is yourself. I've had a journey, I've come out the other end of that journey, and I've still got a long journey ahead of me. And I'm more than happy to face every challenge on that journey as it goes. The final message I have to say was just a little caption and a phrase that I came up with. David's hoping I get it wrong so the bloopers can go in later. But it doesn't matter who you are, you can be what you are. And it doesn't matter what you are, you can be who you are. So, I've David's just been talking to me about bloopers, and that's just obviously stuck it in my mind.